I want to thank you all for joining us here at the Pyle Center, and those of you who are joining us online as well. We are recording this and broadcasting this lecture around the world, so we're pleased to be able to offer this program to you and to anyone else. I think you're really going to enjoy the opportunity today. My name is Mike Fahey, and I'm Managing Director at the Wisconsin Alumni Association. And I have the best job in the world, and for a lot of reasons. But two in particular. I get to work for a great university whose mission, as you know, is rooted in the Wisconsin idea. This idea that what happens at this university should impact not just the boundaries of this university, but across the state, across the country, and around the world. So that's a very powerful motivation and incentive. The other great part about my job is there are so many alumni of this university who do such extraordinary things. And an opportunity to work with all those great alumni is just a pure joy. And today you're going to get someone who embodies both of those things. An alum of this university who is really living the Wisconsin idea around the world and making a huge impact. And I think you're really going to enjoy this opportunity. This is part of our Global Hotspots series, and the Global Hotspots lecture series is co-sponsored by the Wisconsin Alumni Association and the Division of International Studies. Today, we are very thankful for the International Student Services Program, Lori Cox, Marlee Schuschurban, for her great work in making this speaker come today and be part of this. So thank you for doing that. I'm going to introduce, and I have to read off so I can make sure I get all of it right. But Shems Banihani is an alum of the university. She graduated from the School of Business in 2003. She's a native of Jordan, and she currently works for the United Nations Development Program, scaling up local innovations for transformational change. And she works for countries in adapting successful innovations for national use, delivering multiplier effects, such as clean energy, women and girl empowerment, education and employment, and I know she works in areas of microfinance and green energy as well. The aim of her program is to reduce inequalities and disparities around the world at the local level. She began her career as a banker, foreign exchange and bonds trader, and an institutional financial specialist at the CEO's office of the largest bank in the Middle East. She later served as a consultant with the International Knowledge Network of Women in Politics, a joint project of the UNDP, UN Women, and the National Democratic Institute. So as you can see, she's got a great deal of breadth of experience and knowledge. The program that she's going to share with us today is entitled The Importance of Green Job Creation for Women and Youth, and What Can Local Governments Do? So please join me in welcoming Shems Banihani.
Thank you, Mike, for the wonderful introduction, and many thanks for coming. And I hope you'll enjoy my presentation. So right now we're going through so many changes around the world, and especially climate change is a major issue. And if we don't tackle this issue, we won't see our livelihood sustainable in the long run for us and also for our children. And I think the creation of green jobs is becoming very, very important nowadays, especially with a lot of the economic crisis that we're going on and the environmental issues we're currently facing. So my presentation will focus on what can local governments do in creating green jobs, and what have local governments have done in addressing the unemployment rate for the youth population and women, and in tackling the environmental degradation issues. So I'm just going to give an overview about the current unemployment rate around the world for the youth population. In 2012, 1.1 billion people, 1 out of 3, are either unemployed or living in poverty. Youth ages 15 to 24 are nearly 3 times are more likely to be unemployed. The recent financial crisis hit the youth the hardest and increased the unemployment by 4 million. As of 2011, almost 75 million youth are unemployed. And the current unemployment rate stands almost at 13%. In Africa, there are 200 million youth between the ages of 15 and 24. and the population is expected to double by 2045. However, of the total unemployed, 60% are youth. And as you can see from the graph, the Arab region has the highest unemployment rate. Can someone tell me what was the reason for the Arab Spring that happened in Tunisia and Egypt? Anyone brave to answer? It's unemployment. It's unemployment for the youth. It was the youth who organized themselves and demanded that the government make changes and, create jobs for them. I mean, the youth population in the Arab region are educated, but there's no jobs for them to make an income. And more than 27% are in the Arab region are unemployed, and it's above the average of the world, which stands at 12.7%. And the figure will more likely increase in the coming future. It's expected by 2040 that the population will account for 60% of the total population. So if governments do not start from now creating more jobs for the youth, they can see themselves in political and economic instability. Oh, I moved here. Okay. Also, unemployment in the Arab region is also gender biased. Women unemployment is the highest in the world, which stands at 35%. And in 2009, 14 out of 100 young women were employed, in comparison to 41 out of 100 men. So you can see the huge gap. Now I'm presenting a graph from my own country to show you the disparities between women and men. Look at the unemployment rate for women in green and unemployment rate for men. Huge gap, huge gap. And if that is not addressed soon, also Jordan can see itself in an unstable situation. In the past 2 years, we've had numerous protests for people demanding change and reform, but it has been very slow. And if changes don't come soon, we might see ourselves in another Egypt or Tunisia. Now here's another graph that would show you between 2007 and 2012 the unemployment trends around the world. And as you can see again, the Arab region is one of the highest. If you go from 2007 to 2012, it actually has increased. And in light of this, I think green jobs can be an option for governments to introduce in order to tackle this major issue. Now, in the next decade, 500,000 people will enter the workforce. 500 million people will enter the workforce, and most of them are going to be the youth population. And if we stay at the same unemployment level for the youth, countries will eventually become financially and politically unstable. And if you actually currently see what's going on in Spain, there's major protests because of the high unemployment rates for the youth, which stands above 25%. And now back to the to climate change. Climate change has extreme effects on many communities, and women are more vulnerable to climate change than men. It's because they're the one who use natural resources the most, and they are likely to face gradual disappearance of the traditional ways of generating income, just as from farming or fisheries. Mostly farming. In Africa alone, 70 to 80% of African women generate their income from farming. And if we continue on the same path, we'll have major effect on unemployment and have many droughts, that those women will have a way of generating income for themselves. And women also, when they lose their jobs, with the economic climate that we're in, and also the climate change, women are the first to lose their jobs and the last to find a new one. And it takes them a long time to search for a new job. Now, also green gas emissions have increased by 39% above the 1990 levels. And most of the gas emissions come from developed countries, not developing countries. But this is having a huge impact on developing countries in terms also the rising water levels. Some countries are actually going to sink in the next 40 to 50 years because of the climate change. And if we don't, transitioning to a green economy provides a solution. And with transition to a green economy, some jobs will be created, some will be replaced, some will be eliminated, and some will be transformed. And according to the United Nations environmental program, 2.3 million people, both men and women, currently work in renewable energy jobs. There are currently $630 billion in investments for green jobs that would eventually create 20 million jobs by 2030. But we still need more jobs. You have, in the next decade, half a billion people are going to enter the workforce. Now, where can we create green jobs? They can be created in rural areas and also in urban areas. And in urban areas, you can start by greening the cities by, conducting urban agriculture, transforming the public transportation system, which releases the most green gas emissions. And also renewable energy is an option, and then waste management and recycling. And also green construction. And I'm going to talk about every single point and present an example from developing countries where local governments have introduced programs that target specifically women and youth. Now, in South Africa, in 1996, the Working for Water program was started in one of the poorest districts in the country and one that has the highest unemployment rate. The aim of the program is to combat the devastating effects of plants that tend to be heavy water users. So their removal will basically free water resources for human needs and also for the environment. Now, aside from the environmental benefits of this program, the program places special emphasis on creating green jobs especially for women. It's part of its policies to hire the staff to be 60% women, 38% youth, and 2% disabled, people living with disabilities. And what's special about the program as well is that both men and women are paid equally in order to address the income inequality that many countries face, and in many different sectors as well. However, men are restricted to only 5 years. You can only work in this program for 5 years, but for women, it's open for them. It's because, like I said, again, women, out of the 1.2 billion poor, 70% of them are women. So they're also trying to take that into account. Each year, the program provides training to more than 30,000 young youth, and it has today cleared 1 million hectares of land. And if the program is to be scaled up, it could add 4.5 million jobs in Africa, and that averaging 100 days per year. So if it's scaled up nationwide. Now, in terms of greening cities, just to give you a basic idea why this is important. In 2020, so not far from now, developing countries will be home to some 75% of urban dwellers, and 8 of the largest cities with a population that will exceed 20 million. And it's expected that 85% of the poor in Latin America and 40 to 45% of the poor in Asia and Africa will be concentrated on those cities. So you're talking about huge numbers. And those cities will face difficulties in creating employment for the poor, especially women and youth. And it will face increasing challenges in the disposal of urban waste, water management, and maintenance of air and water quality. And this rapid urbanization will eventually, increase poverty and contribute to environmental challenges. Now, I'm presenting an example from Argentina. In 2001, I think many of you will probably remember, the country went through a political and institutional crisis. And that increased the employment rate throughout the entire country. Now, in the city of Rosario, they tried to address this point. Well, in the city, they also had a high unemployment rate, and they also saw a huge wave of people migrating from rural areas to the cities in hope they will find jobs. But that didn't, become a reality, and the city found increasing unemployment rates. So in order to address this, and take into account that a lot of them actually came from the rural areas, many of them had experience in farming. So what the city did is they reused vacant land, around the city and within the city that are not deemed, suitable for construction, and they, started providing trade training for women, and also, men and youth as well, to start, farming, so they can, get their own little garden and they can farm, and then eventually sell this produce and make an income. And this program has been successful so far. There are 791 community gardens created, and 62% are women gardeners, and that have increased their income by from $40 to $150 per month. I know some of you are saying, "Oh, well, this is not a lot of money," but in developing countries, that's a lot of money. Now, in public transportation. Now, public transportation tends to be, the major employer in many cities. In New York, it employs 88,000 people in New York City. Now, in 2009, this sector employed 13 million people. And in some cities, this accounts to 1% to 2% of the total employment. And public transportation also contributes heavily to damaging our environment. And one way to reduce the harmful gas emissions is to, transition to gas-efficient transportation. And in the city of Bogota, it's in Colombia. It responded to the uncontrolled urban growth and harmful emission by introducing a massive bus transit system which uses energy-efficient fuel. And it so far created 95,000 jobs. 24% are for women. And the transition to the gas-efficient buses and also it reduced green gas emissions by 40% and traveling time by 32%. But you can see that it also created jobs, and at the same time, it contributed positively to the environment. But I also want to point out that transitioning to a green economy is not cheap. It actually requires heavy resources. But you need the engagement of multiple people. And in this project, you used the public-private partnership approach, where you had, the national government involved that covered 70% of the cost, and along 30% was contributed by the local government and the private sector. And it's really important also to involve the private sector because they're always, up to date with knowledge. They tend to have expertise, and like I said, they have always up-to-date technology, which can be easily transferred to, into creating jobs. Now, renewable energy. This sector, to date, employs 2.3 million people. It estimated that 2.1 million jobs will be created in wind energy, 6.2 in solar photovoltaic, and 12 million in biofuels, totaling a total of 20 million jobs by 2030. Now, in Bangladesh, it's considered a least developed country, extremely poor country, but it's the fastest growing solar PV in the world. So you can see that they're really, taking this seriously and trying to address this issue. Now, you had a non-profit organization, Grameen Shakati. I know you've all heard of Grameen Bank, but it's a subsidiary for it. And they helped, install 100 solar homes in rural and in urban areas, created 20 technology centers in rural and urban areas, and trained both men and women, and to becoming technicians, to construct and repair and maintain improved cooking stoves. And this project helped open new businesses, such as community TV shops, solar charged mobile phone centers, where people can come and charge their cell phones because they don't have electricity in their own, houses. And also they opened new shops and more restaurants, and also just that had an effect of them to actually be open a longer time, so that people can have the opportunity to make additional income. So if you worked it gave people the chance to work 3 to 4 hours longer with the access of lighting. Now, waste management and recycling. It makes a significant contribution to reducing energy usage and pollution, and provides jobs than filling and burning waste, which is harmful to the environment. In the U.S., $236 billion are generated annually from recycling, and it employs 1.1 million people. In Brazil, there are 2,400 cooperatives that are involved in recycling and employs half a million people. Now, in the city of Matare in Zimbabwe, the city saw a rapid urbanization in the city, and that led to environmental challenges and raising inequalities and the growth of illegal housing. And most of this illegal housing happened actually by waste dumps, which are very harmful to people's health. And so to address this issue, they established a paper recycling and composting program in 1996 to address this issue. And then with this program, they created where people would recycle waste paper, and they actually would sell it to paper mills and make an income off of it. And also the organic waste is composited and used as by local farmers. So they're recycling waste in a good way to produce something good out of it, and also to make money. And what's so special about this program as well is that before they developed this program, many different groups got together. You had women and youth. You had the city council. You had the private sector. You had many different local communities all get involved to try to come up with a solution how they can address this. So you can see that social dialogue always contributes to success, and it happens in many projects that are successful. When you have cooperation, collaboration by many stakeholders, and it's owned by the community, it will be successful. So always, ownership of the program makes projects and programs successful at the end of the day. Now, green construction can be created in this sector as well. In construction, you can make construction green. This sector employs 111 million people worldwide, and 3/4 are in developing countries. However, the sector is responsible for 25 to 40% of global energy usage, and produces 30 to 40% of global green gas emissions. And it's estimated that there are at least, and in order to create jobs, currently there's 1.2 billion residential buildings. Now, if we renovate them to become energy efficient, it would take us 28 years to do so. So you can imagine the amount of jobs that would be created in order to renovate those buildings, in order for them to become efficient, energy efficient, and to become less harmful for the environment. And in the Philippines, it tried to address this. Now, the Philippines is one of the countries that's going through is facing a lot of environmental challenges. And it has high poverty rates. And to promote green jobs, the local government, along with the private sector, of course, and the International Labour Organization, which is another UN agency, they decided that why not renovate the social housing in the city of Rizal and generate employment, and at the same time, decrease the amount of greenhouse emissions from those buildings. And it has been successful. It has trained many youth in the production installation for environmentally friendly construction materials. And also, again, as you're seeing from the examples I'm presenting, that always the private sector is involved. The private sector always has the means and has the technology. So it's always great to engage them. Now, what can local governments do? I mean, before I run through what I have to say, I would like to hear from you. What can local governments do to create green jobs at the local level? Yes. Of course. Okay. All right. Anyone else? Yes, of course. Very important.
I think it's important to recognize what issues are actually going on. A lot of times government officials don't talk to communities, and they miss a lot of the problems that are going on, as well as organizations and businesses, and not only in collaboration, but how they'll affect the community.
Of course, of course. Yes?
I think also it's really created as economic development vehicle.
Mm-hmm. Correct. You're right. You're right.
I'm not sure if that's what could create not only incentives but products.
Mm-hmm.
Also policy.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Oh, okay, great.
Local governments and because with a willingness to help, because I know that in some, especially undeveloped and developed governments, as we all have, from the top government go to the local government, we don't control.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing.
To increase communication, you mean, between the local and national level, to create national-local linkages. Okay, all right. Great answers, by the way. All of them are correct. And now, before governments can start by setting green job indicators, and that could start at the industry sector level, the organizational level, and the job itself. So what they can do at the industry sector level is they can identify sectors that can create green jobs as a starting point. Like I said before, construction is one of them. It's a big employer in the developing world. And also in farming as well. At the organizational level, it's focused on the production level. and encourage firms to actually, set measures to reduce consumption of energy and waste productions. I know you mentioned that, tax incentives, but in many developing countries, they don't have sufficient tax systems. So you have to address it from a different way. And, for some companies, you can address it through, their corporate social responsibility, and encourage them that it's good for their image. And of course, the private sector always cares about, making profit. And having a good reputation, increases their profit in the long run. Now, at the job level, green jobs, you can create green jobs, but it's very important for them to be decent jobs. They're, good, well paid, and in a safe environment, healthy environment. And also, they have, their worker rights. So you can create a job, but without for it to be decent, then it's not a green job, even if it's contributing positively to the environment. Now, also, it's very important to train and develop the skills of the youth and women, because you create green jobs, but you need the skills. And what local governments do is they can, start out, do training centers, or they can even partner with vocational colleges and also universities to introduce this as a learning course. And once the students graduate, they have the skills to apply for those jobs and to get those jobs. Sorry. Also, transitioning to green economy is expensive. And usually the local government can't do it on its own. We need the support of the national government and even beyond international donors. So what they can do is they can lobby with the national government to provide earmarked funding for green jobs windows, but based on the financial ability of the localities and their environmental needs. Now, it can't be across the board because some localities are richer than other localities. And the poor localities actually suffer from more climate changes than richer ones, because the richer ones, they have the financial means, but poorer ones do not. And also, they can also introduce, performance-based budgeting. So to provide incentives for local governments to address climate change challenges. But like I said again, it all depends. You need to keep in mind that there are rich localities and poor localities. And sometimes I've even read in an instance where rich localities were actually asked to support poorer localities in their initiatives. And finally, establishing and harnessing innovative partnerships. As you saw from all the examples, it all involved multiple stakeholders. It could be, donors, the national government, the local government, private sector, multilateral organizations, bilateral donors, all involved. Also, grassroots organizations who work at the local level. They're more familiar of what's going on in that specific community than at the national level. They don't know what's going on. So there could be a start to engage with them. And like I said, it's also a chance for them to mobilize resources. If the national government is poor and cannot provide, they could always reach out for donors in the international community, even though the current financial environment doesn't look as great as we've hoped. Donors always pledge that we'll provide more money, but they never come through on their word. Like I said yesterday, in 2000, 22 donor countries pledged that they would contribute 0.7% of the gross national income to the Millennium Development Goals, to eradicate poverty, halt the HIV/AIDS, empower women, but only 5 countries fell on their promise and delivered the 0.7% of the gross national income. So we need donor support. And lately I've had discussions also with some member states who are currently negotiating with different governments. And some have said that, the developed countries want everyone to transition into green economies and they say it's impacting us and things need to change. But they're at the same time unwilling to provide additional funding or also transfer their technology to those poor countries. So you have this debate. So if that doesn't happen, then how do we expect things to change and to become, to have greener economies? So I would like to also show you a video that we currently made. We just finished it 3 weeks ago. It was shot in Haiti. And this is part of the program that I work on. It's on scaling up local innovation at the local level, and to see how it could be replicated throughout the country to benefit more people. Now, this happened that took place. This video you'll see is from Haiti, and it's about what happened after the earthquake in 2010. Many women lost their homes and lost their businesses, and they had to relocate to camps. And what our program does is try to generate employment for these women and to provide them with training. But we saw it as an opportunity at the same time that any jobs or training that we provide to them, we make sure that there are green jobs. So I hope you enjoy it.
Et puis, moi, j'étais commerçante avant 12 janvier. Après 12 janvier, ça s'est terminé. Et on n'a pas du tout. Moi, j'ai rencontré avec le groupe Sophonias, qui a invité moi à apprendre une formation de technique génie civil.
Following 3 years of earthquake recovery, Haitians are rebuilding their homes and their livelihoods.
One of the most affected sectors following the earthquake was the entire networks of small businesses around the city, and a lot of those small businesses are owned by women who support one or many families with those incomes.
Building up the economy is a major priority for the Haitian government, which seeks to generate opportunities, many of which focus on women and youth. By partnering with the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, and 8 non-profit groups in the capital Port-au-Prince, one such project provided training, technical assistance, access to microcredit, and other resources to develop a trade or start a business.
Après, après panneau, fin après faire, après nous allons monter, construire caille avec nous. L'autre projet, d'autres constructions, l'église, l'école et centre santé.
16 neighborhoods, 6 camps was a program developed by the Haitian government to rehabilitate affected neighborhoods in Port-au-Prince and encourage people living in camps to return home while creating job opportunities for the residents. Supported by the Korea UNDP MDG Trust Fund, a main component of the project aims to empower women through a combination of employment and entrepreneurship programs. Enabling women economically is key to the project's long-term sustainability.
Celles qui étaient dans le commerce, même les familles, ils se trouvaient dans le dénuement complet. Le projet Celle-ci s'est venu en appui pour les aider à reprendre pied, ainsi remonter la pente et redevenir ce qu'elle était avant et ce qu'elle représentait dans l'économie haïtienne.
Starting from the ground up, the program created a network of partners from neighborhood councils to government ministries to civil society to develop 8 job creation projects ranging from crafts to construction.
Partnerships have been at the heart of what we do. Our approach was essentially, let's invest in what works. Let's invest in people and in organizations that have capacities that are already well-rooted within the community. And this is the reason why we were able to show results in a relatively small lapse of time.
One of the projects enabled a group of women to form cooperatives, raising and selling chickens locally, and provides them with training, microgrants, and regular visits by a veterinarian.
Parce que moi-même, je ne suis pas bon même. Parce que Marie m'a déjà fait crise de tension. C'est moi qui ai des familles en net comme à la tête. Moi, j'ai des frères qui mourent dans le choléra. Ti moun sa yo tout nan même là actuellement. Et c'est pour là que moi vendre, moi ka joindre l'argent la donne pour m'envoyer à l'école. Des organisations ça qui capable aider nous pousser nous devant pour nous capable marcher. Et surtout pour moi. En pile.
Il y a tellement de jeunes en Haïti qui ne travaillent pas et des jeunes qui n'ont pas de profession. Ce projet-là, c'est une façon pour le ministère d'aider les jeunes d'être maîtres de soi, responsables de leur avenir.
Another project trains women in business management and handicrafts and provides on-the-job training with local businesses where they can practice their new skills.
Je fais commerce. Même vinn camper, je fais commerce encore parce que vinn pas gain l'argent, je fais commerce encore. Puis je vinn pas faire commerce là. Même vinn je avec femme en démocratie. Li vinn mettre nous sous pied, li ban nous sorte de artisanat, n'a travail, li parler nous d'éjection, comment pour nous gérer un business, comment pour nous vivre, pour nous penser tête nous demain si Dieu veut qui ça nous veut, qui a venu nous ta remet dans vie nous.
Je pense qu'il y a un tas d'opportunités que les femmes haïtiennes ratent parce qu'elles n'ont pas assez de formation. Pour nous, c'est la seule manière de les habiliter à arriver à un niveau économique.
Moi, j'ai pour la vie a changé pour nous. Ça m'apprend pour l'aider, pour vivre avec elle normal. Même j'ai un business, boutique, tout bagaille, et ça m'a aimé.
Efforts are already underway to scale up the program to other parts of the country. The success of the Korea UNDP MDG Trust Fund is being used as a model by the Haitian government to identify regional markets, share knowledge, and create job centers to reach even more vulnerable populations nationally.
We intend to continue and redoubling our efforts, scaling up initiatives that have worked, finding innovative ways, such as this project of economic empowerment of women, to continue investing in things that work.
Même dit femme à démocratie, merci en pile, parce que li aide nous, li montre nous avenir tête nous comment nous commencer comment pour nous venir kounya. Parce que une femme c'est pour tout mi-temps lié dans pays tout même avec garçon.
Mais nous à l'avenir bien content apprendre que moi appris très bien, moi réaliser, moi penser à réaliser rêve moi. La dernière parce que technique génie civil c'est un bagage de ce moment.
That's it. So if you have any questions, please let me know.
Please raise your hand and I'll come around with the microphone so everybody that's watching our webcast at home can hear.
You mentioned that there were seven countries, I believe, that met the criteria of the 7% gross national. 5. What were they? Do you know? Do you happen to know them?
They're Scandinavian countries. Norway, Denmark, I don't know them on top of my head, but they're Scandinavian countries. Mm-hmm.
As a result of your studies, where in the undeveloped world is the situation optimal for increased input from the developed world to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish? And where in the undeveloped world is it going to be the largest challenge?
The largest challenge is sub-Saharan Africa. it's the main region that's lagging in many of its development goals that it's supposed to achieve by 2015. It's in almost every goal that it hasn't been able to achieve, and it's due to many factors. Some countries are poor. Some countries face a lot of political instabilities, and also corruption plays a huge part in some of those countries. And also, in the past couple of years, donor money has decreased. So it's impacting some of those countries. And the financial crisis has actually reversed some of the progress they've actually were able to achieve. And now they're back to where they were before in some countries.
What is our best hope to establish your goals and be a beacon for further?
I mean, a lot of Asian countries have made tremendous progress. I mean, China has made great progress in reducing money for if it's a poverty rate. But then again, we're talking about a huge country, but it made great strides. And Malaysia is one of them. Indonesia made great improvements. And also a lot of countries in the CIS region, Eastern Europe, they've made great strides, and actually most of them are supposed to achieve most of their development targets by 2015.
And what, in your opinion, are the basic needs, basic reasons for faster development in some?
Well, the first reason is that they're better off than some countries in Asia and in Africa. Most of the countries in Europe, in Eastern Europe, are middle-income countries. While in Africa, you're talking about the least developed countries, and also some countries in Asia. So that's why you see this discrepancies between the two.
I just had two questions on the statistics. So when you're talking about unemployment of women, I'm assuming that those are countries where women are able to be employed and seeking employment. Is that correct? Or does that include countries where access to employment for women there's some discrimination?
It's for both.
It's for both. So it includes both.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay, that was it. Thanks.
How did your degree at UW-Madison prepare you for your job with the United Nations Development Program?
Help me come here. I think we in our project we managed a lot of money, millions of dollars. So having the financial background really helped me in managing the budgets and looking what we have, what we don't have. And usually we always run on tight budgets. And also in some projects we work with the private sector. And so I worked in the private sector as well. So I know how they function, how they run their businesses, and so that helps. Mm-hmm.
Here, you mentioned two countries in Latin America, Argentina and Colombia. Do you know which countries in Latin America are easiest to deal with when it comes to private investment? For example, renewable projects, we're dealing, for example, with companies here in the U.S. that are interested in developing facilities in Latin America, but they have to go through the barriers of political challenges or economic incentives, perhaps. Are you aware of any countries that are more receptive or welcoming to private investment?
I mean, from my experience, we've never had an issue. Okay. Latin America is, a stable, stable continent. And most of the countries are middle-income countries. So, they've already have, established infrastructure and businesses. So we've never faced that issue.
But I'm aware that I'm from Colombia, so I'm aware of the inequalities as well in employment for women. So, right, and I do see the advantage of having renewable energy as one of the incentives for any company to go into a country and provide employment opportunities for women and youth. Again, there are countries in Latin America that do face warfare and political issues that it's sometimes difficult to a company decide to set up operations in countries that have those issues.
Definitely. We actually do have a program in Colombia. And I've presented actually a video about it yesterday. And it's basically targets women and the indigenous population, which tends to be the most marginalized in society and the poorest. And we introduced a program just for the women and the indigenous population, and we provided them with employment opportunities, economic training and vocational training so they can improve their livelihoods. And it's been replicated in multiple territories in Colombia. And it's actually one of our most successful programs.
Do we have any other questions? Great.
I just wanted to clarify all of the programs that you featured earlier in Colombia and Argentina, the Philippines. Was the UNDP involved in those, or were they just local programs that you are planning on working with in the future?
There's actually a reason why I did not bring in UNDP examples. I want to feature what local governments are doing on their own without our engagement, because they're acknowledging the fact that climate change is happening and it's affecting them and affecting their, generating employment for their youth. So that's the reason why I did not present. But we have numerous programs, but I want to let you know that local governments are doing it on their own.
Hi, I'm aware that there are a lot of successful and sustainable examples in the presentation that you gave. I was wondering, is there a platform for the countries to communicate with each other and share experience despite the UN? And is there a conference or a program that they can share information?
We have a special unit in UNDP. It's called South-South Cooperation. And they encourage countries to share knowledge with each other. Last year, I attended a conference in Rome. And it's about global South-South cooperation. And you had many countries come and present their projects so that other countries can learn from them and try to emulate what they're doing. So yeah, we encourage that, and we always, because actually right now, it's countries who are learning from South-South countries. When I say South-South countries, I mean developing countries. And a long time ago, it used to be northern country, South countries learning from northern countries. But now it's shifted from South-South because now they're implementing programs that are successful and sustainable. Yeah. And actually, most of our publications, they do always touch on the fact that, we always stress up, we have a part that says, we encourage South-South, and this program was, picked up, let's say, by a different country. Like, it was a program we implemented in Mongolia. It's on microfinance. We had nearby countries like Pakistan, Uzbekistan, and Tajikistan come and learn how they implemented this project and try to implement it in their own.
Other question. Among the programs that you put over there, I saw that the renewable energy and waste management recycling are two majors that I'm studying in. And that, for example, I want to help my country in Southeast Asia, to build one of those programs over there. So what's your suggestion about the starting point that I should follow? Because that if I don't have any connection, relationship over there, but I really want to contribute something because, I was there and I saw people, they need help. But if we start doing something, they will say that you need to go to this local government, this one. It means that too many steps, and that until the point that people, they need help, but I am already so exhausted to follow more because it could take years. It's not like, okay, let's do it. It's not like that. So what's your suggestion about the starting point that I should start? If I want to go back to those countries to do, that with my own contribution, I mean.
Are you talking about you getting involved individually or launching a program?
any of those, you know that as long as I could do something over there, because like I really want to, but they don't let me to. They ask me to do follow this, and this. I was there. I was in that situation. Yeah.
Where are you from?
I'm from Vietnam.
If you want to start individually, I think start out with the grassroots organizations, NGOs. There are many NGOs, grassroots organizations on the ground at the local level who are always demanding people to come and help them. So that could be an option for you to navigate instead of going through more of the, local governments that have money red tape and money policies.
Oh, NGO. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
NGOs, I mean non-governmental organizations.
We have a question from someone watching the webcast, and this is, how might the work of UW outreachers and researchers help with this sort of work?
By documenting successful stories. I know that a lot of, some of your professors, they've traveled to Uganda. Document those successful stories and share them with the world. And that could be, a way for the university to reach out and also to present itself that it's active in the development world. So research is key. We also, we reach out to academia because we believe that they're experts. Like when we write publications, one of our peer reviewers always has to be one from a university professor who's an expert in this area. So we always seek out their knowledge. So if I ever need someone to peer review my publications, I'll most likely reach out to UW.
Great. Well, I don't know, there was actually a follow-up question. You kind of touched on this, but have you encountered other UW alumni in your work, whether within United Nations or elsewhere?
I have not, but maybe in the future we can have more UW-Madison alumni involved. And that's the reason why I'm here.
We have time for one more question if anybody else has a question. Okay, great. Well, everybody, please join me in thanking Shams for joining us today.
Thank you.
We have a thank you gift that you can take with you.
Oh, thank you.
Flat
this
bucket
is great.
and a pin.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks again for being here. The UW is, of course, very proud to have alums like yourself that are out and about and doing great work all over the world. So thank you so much, and thank you for being here. Thanks to everybody who's here today and to everybody that's tuned in to our webcast. We'll have another live lecture as well as a webcast on Thursday, March 21st, and that will be at the Capitol Lakes Retirement Community for the UW Showcase, and that will be author Deb Bloom. She's a professor here at the School of Journalism, and her talk will be The Poisoner's Guide to Life. She's written a book about forensics in New York City in the 1920s, and she'll talk about it. So thanks again for everybody for being here, and have a great night.